My name is Margaret Hill. I'm 64 years old, and I live in Cleveland, Ohio. Let me tell you something that will haunt me for the rest of my days. There are moments in life when everything you thought you knew about your children crumbles in an instant. The day I saw my son burying that black bag in our backyard, trembling and covered in dirt, whispering those chilling words, "Mom, I had to do this. Don't look," I understood that my life would never be the same. What was inside that bag destroyed everything I believed about my family, my son, and myself. I had spent 32 years building Thomas into the man I thought he was. 32 years of sacrifice, of working double shifts as a nurse at Cleveland Clinic to give him everything he needed. His father, Robert, died when Thomas was only 7 years old, a sudden heart attack that left us devastated and struggling. I became both mother and father, working 60-hour weeks, skipping meals so Thomas could have better ones, saving every penny for his education. I paid $47,000 for his college tuition, money I scraped together from overtime, from selling our old house and moving to a smaller one, from saying no to myself 1,000 times so I could say yes to him. Thomas grew up to be a handsome young man with bright eyes and an easy smile. He graduated with a business degree, got a good job at a marketing firm downtown, and married a beautiful woman named Ashley 3 years ago. I thought I had done everything right. I thought my son was happy, successful, and honest. God, how wrong I was. It was supposed to be a beautiful October afternoon. We were preparing for Thomas's birthday celebration that weekend, his 32nd. I had spent the entire morning baking his favorite chocolate cake, the same recipe I'd used since he was 5 years old. The house smelled of cocoa and vanilla, and I was humming softly, thinking about how blessed I was to have my son nearby, to still be part of his life. I left around noon to pick up some decorations from the party store, but when I got there, I realized I'd forgotten my credit card at home. Frustrated with myself, I drove back, pulled into the driveway, and walked around to the back door. It was closer to the kitchen where I'd left my purse. That's when I saw him. Thomas was in the middle of our backyard, on his knees, his dress shirt rolled up to his elbows, digging frantically. His hands were covered in dark soil, his face was pale as death, and his eyes were wild with something I'd never seen before: panic, guilt, terror. Next to him on the grass lay a large black garbage bag, bulging with something heavy and irregularly shaped. "Thomas?" My voice came out as barely a whisper. He jerked his head up, and the look on his face. God, it was like seeing a stranger. His eyes went wide, and he scrambled to his feet, positioning himself between me and that bag. "Mom, what are you? You're not supposed to be here." His voice cracked, shrill and desperate. "I forgot my card, sweetheart." "What are you doing? What's in that bag?" I took a step closer, my heart beginning to pound in a way that had nothing to do with my age. "Nothing. It's nothing, Mom. Just go back inside, please." He was trembling now, his whole body shaking like a leaf in a storm. Dirt streaked his face where he'd wiped sweat away with filthy hands. But I'm a mother. For 32 years, I'd known when my son was lying, when he was hurt, when he was afraid. And right now, he was all three. "Thomas Michael Hill, you tell me what's in that bag right now." I used his full name, the voice that had always made him confess to broken windows and failed tests. He looked at me, and tears started streaming down his face, mixing with the dirt and sweat. "Mom, I had to do this. Don't look. Please, just trust me and don't look." But maternal instinct is stronger than any warning. I pushed past him, my 64-year-old body moving faster than it had in years, and reached for the bag. The plastic was slightly open at the top, and before Thomas could stop me, I looked inside. What I saw made my knees buckle, made the world spin and tilt sideways. The last thing I remember before hitting the grass was my own scream echoing in my ears, and Thomas's anguished cry, "Mom, Mom, no!" Everything went black. Before I continue with what happened next, please, if you're finding this story gripping, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. I need your support to share my story with the world. And please, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Knowing I'm not alone in this gives me strength. Now let me tell you what I saw in that bag and how my entire world shattered. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on our living room couch, a cold compress on my forehead. Thomas was sitting on the coffee table in front of me. his head in his hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The afternoon light coming through the window seemed too bright, too normal for what had just happened. "Thomas," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "Thomas, what have you done?" He looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes, and I barely recognized my son in that devastated face. "Mom, I can explain. I can explain everything, but you have to listen to me. You have to understand." "Understand?" I sat up too quickly, and the room spun. "You were burying money, Thomas. Stacks and stacks of cash. There must have been thousands of dollars in that bag. Where did it come from? Did you steal it? Oh God, tell me you didn't steal it." The silence that followed was more damning than any confession. Thomas stood up and walked to the window, his back to me, his whole body rigid with tension. "It's not stolen," he finally said, his voice barely audible. "Not exactly. It's complicated." Complicated? I felt hysteria rising in my throat. "My son is burying what looks like $50,000 in our backyard, and you say it's complicated?" $63,000, he corrected automatically, then winced at his own words. "Mom, please, sit down. Let me explain from the beginning." But I couldn't sit. I stood up, ignoring the dizziness, and faced him. "I worked myself to the bone for you, Thomas. When your father died, I could have given up. I could have told you we'd have to make do with less. But I didn't. I worked night shifts, double shifts, holidays. I sold the house your father and I bought together, the house where all our memories lived, just so I could afford your tuition. $47,000, Thomas. I paid every cent of your college education while living in a house half the size, wearing clothes from thrift stores, driving a car held together by duct tape and prayers." "I know, Mom. I know. Do you?" Tears were streaming down my face now. "Do you really know what it cost me? Not just the money, Thomas, but the arthritis in my hands from all those years of nursing work, the exhaustion that settled into my bones, the loneliness of coming home to an empty house every night because I was always working. And I did it gladly. Do you understand? Gladly. Because you were my son, my pride, my reason for everything." Thomas turned around, and his face was a mask of anguish. "That's exactly why I did this, Mom. For you, for us, for Ashley, for the future." "Did what, Thomas? Tell me everything right now, or I swear to God I'm calling the police." He flinched at the word police, and my heart sank even further. "6 months ago," he began, his voice shaking, "I lost my job. The company downsized and I was let go. Ashley doesn't know. I've been pretending to go to work every day, Mom, getting dressed in my suit, driving downtown, sitting in coffee shops and parks, applying for jobs on my laptop, coming home at the regular time." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Thomas, no, I couldn't tell her. We'd just bought the house, a $340,000 mortgage that's choking us every month. Ashley wants to start a family. She talks about babies, about the nursery she wants to set up in the spare room, about the future. How could I tell her I lost my job? How could I tell her we might lose everything? But the money, Thomas. Where did that money come from if you've been unemployed for 6 months? He looked at me, and I saw shame so deep in his eyes that it made me want to look away. "I started gambling. Online poker at first, just small amounts. And Mom, I was good at it. Really good. I turned $500 into $5,000 in 2 weeks, then $5,000 into $15,000. It felt like the answer to everything. I could make money from home, keep up appearances, figure things out. My legs felt weak again. Oh, Thomas. But then I got cocky. I bet big on what I thought was a sure thing. Lost $12,000 in one night. $12,000, Mom, gone just like that." He snapped his fingers, the sound sharp in the quiet room. I panicked. I took out a cash advance on our credit cards, both of them maxed out now at $23,000. I told myself I'd win it back, that I just needed one good night. "Please tell me you didn't." "I won it back, Mom, and more. I went to an underground poker game downtown, in a basement in the warehouse district. I won $78,000 in one night. It was incredible, like Providence, enough to pay off the credit cards, cover 3 months of mortgage, and still have cushion. I felt like God had given me a second chance. I sank back onto the couch, my mind reeling. "Then why were you burying it? Why not just deposit it in the bank?" Thomas's laugh was bitter and hollow. "Because those games aren't exactly legal, Mom. And because the people who run them, they're not the kind of people who like it when someone wins big and walks away. I've been getting calls, threatening calls. They want me to come back, to give them a chance to win their money back. One of them showed up at my house last week when Ashley was out. He was polite, but the threat was clear. Come back and play, or there would be consequences. The room seemed to close in around me. So you were burying the money here? In my backyard? I thought if I hid it somewhere they wouldn't look, somewhere separate from my house and my life, I could protect Ashley, protect you. I was going to leave it buried for a few months until things cooled down, until I found a new job, until I could figure out a way to slowly integrate it back into our finances without raising suspicion. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised, this person I thought I knew, and felt like I was seeing him clearly for the first time in years, and what I saw terrified me. Thomas, those people you're talking about, they're dangerous. This isn't just about money anymore. You've put yourself, Ashley, and me in danger. Do you understand that? Before he could answer, his phone rang. The sound was jarring, obscenely normal. Thomas looked at the screen, and his face went white. It's them, he whispered. Thomas's hand shook so violently as he held the phone that I could hear it vibrating against his palm. We both stared at the screen. Unknown caller, flashing like a warning. Don't answer it, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I have to. If I don't, they'll just keep calling. Or worse, they'll show up. He swiped to answer and put it on speaker, his eyes meeting mine in silent apology. Tommy boy. The voice that came through was smooth as silk and cold as ice. You haven't been returning my messages. That's not very friendly considering how generous we've been with you. Look, Victor, I told you I'm done. I won the money fair and square, and now I'm out. A low chuckle came through the speaker, making my skin crawl. Fair and square? Tommy, Tommy, Tommy. You know as well as I do that nobody just walks away from our table with $78,000. That's not how this works. I don't owe you anything. I paid my buy-in. I played by the rules. The rules! Victor's voice turned sharp as a blade. Let me tell you about the rules, Tommy. The rules say that when someone wins big at our table, they come back and give us a chance to win it back. The rules say that loyalty matters. The rules say that people who try to skip town with our money, well, they don't stay healthy for very long. Neither do their families. I grabbed Thomas's arm, my nails digging into his flesh. The threat was explicit, unmistakable. Are you threatening me? Thomas's voice cracked. I'm educating you, Tommy, because I like you, and I'd hate to see anything happen to that pretty wife of yours. Ashley, right? Works at the dental office on Euclid Avenue, drives that blue Honda Civic. She's got such a lovely smile. Thomas's face turned a shade of red I'd never seen before. You stay away from her. You hear me? Stay away from my wife. Then come back to the table, Tommy. Tomorrow night. Bring $20,000 as a buy-in, and we'll play for the rest. Win, and you keep everything. Lose, and we're square. That's more than fair. I don't have $20,000 liquid. It's all... Thomas stopped himself, glancing at me. All buried somewhere? Victor finished for him. Yeah, Tommy, we know. We've been watching you. Saw you digging in your mommy's backyard this afternoon. That was smart, I'll give you that. But not smart enough. The blood drained from my face. They'd been watching. They knew where I lived. How did we find Mommy's address? Tommy, we know everything about you. We know about the house you can't afford, the credit cards you maxed out, the job you lost. We know about the college fund you've been pretending exists. We know things that Ashley doesn't know, and that's something worth thinking about, isn't it? Because if you don't show up tomorrow night with that money, maybe we'll have a little chat with your wife about what her husband's been up to. Thomas looked like he might be sick. Don't, please. I'll figure something out. Just tomorrow night, Tommy, 9 p.m. Same place. Don't make me come looking for you. The line went dead. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then Thomas dropped the phone like it had burned him and pressed his hands against his face. Oh, God, Mom, what have I done? I stood up, my mind racing despite the fear that threatened to paralyze me. 64 years of life had taught me one thing. Panic solves nothing. Okay. We need to think. We need to be smart about this. Smart? Thomas looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Mom, these people are dangerous. They're watching us. They threatened Ashley. I know, sweetheart, I know. But falling apart won't help anybody. I walked to the window and carefully peered through the curtains. The street looked normal. Mrs. Patterson walking her dog, the Martinez kids playing basketball in their driveway. But now every parked car looked suspicious, every stranger a potential threat. We could go to the police, Thomas said, but his voice lacked conviction. And tell them what? That you've been gambling illegally with criminal organization? That you've been hiding tens of thousands of dollars in unreported cash? Thomas, you could go to jail. And even if the police could protect us from these people, which is a big if, what happens to Ashley when she finds out everything? Thomas slumped against the wall, sliding down until he was sitting on the floor. I've destroyed everything, haven't I? My marriage, my life, my relationship with you. All of it. Gone, because I was too proud to admit I lost my job. I sat down next to him on the floor, something my knees immediately protested. Listen to me, Thomas. You made terrible choices, horrible, stupid, dangerous choices, but you're still my son, and I'm not going to let these people hurt you or Ashley. How, Mom? How are we going to stop this? I took a deep breath, an idea forming in my mind. Dangerous, possibly crazy, but it was something. What if we give them what they want? What? No, Mom, I'm not going back to that game. I can't. Not you, I interrupted. Me. Thomas stared at me like I'd lost my mind. What are you talking about? I'm talking about a mother protecting her son, the same way I've been doing for 32 years. You said they want you to come back with $20,000 and play for the rest, right? What if I go instead? Mom, you can't be serious. These are dangerous people. You're 64 years old. Exactly. I'm a 64-year-old widow, a retired nurse, someone completely unthreatening, someone they'd never see coming. I grabbed his hands, forcing him to look at me. Thomas, I spent 32 years taking care of you. I'm not going to stop now just because the stakes are higher. But you don't even know how to play poker. A small smile crossed my face. Baby, what do you think your father and I did every Friday night for 15 years? Robert was a card shark, and he taught me everything he knew. I haven't played in years, but I remember. And more importantly, I remember something your father used to say. Poker isn't about the cards. It's about the people. It's about reading faces, understanding psychology, knowing when to fold and when to push. Thomas was shaking his head, tears streaming down his face again. I can't let you do this. It's too dangerous. You don't have a choice, sweetheart, because if you go back to that table, they're going to take everything from you, one way or another. They'll keep bleeding you dry until there's nothing left. But if I go, if I play their game and win, maybe we can end this. And if you lose, I squeezed his hands tighter. Then I lose some money. Money is replaceable, Thomas. You and Ashley aren't. That night, after Thomas left, shell-shocked but reluctantly agreeing to my plan, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by cards. My hands, gnarled with arthritis and age spots, shuffled the deck with a muscle memory I thought I'd forgotten. King of hearts, 3 of clubs, ace of spades. The faces and numbers blurred together as I practiced, remembering. Robert's voice echoed in my mind. Maggie, poker is 90% psychology and 10% luck. Watch their eyes, watch their hands, watch how they breathe. The cards almost don't matter. I'd forgotten how much I loved this. The quiet concentration, the strategic thinking, the thrill of reading an opponent. Robert and I had spent so many Friday nights at our kitchen table, just like this, playing for pennies and laughing at each other's bluffs. After he died, I'd packed away the cards along with everything else that reminded me too much of him. The pain had been too fresh, the memories too raw. Now, 17 years later, I was unpacking those memories for my son. My phone rang at 11 p.m. Thomas. Mom, I can't sleep. I can't stop thinking about this. Please, there has to be another way. There isn't, sweetheart. We've been over this. But what if they hurt you? What if something goes wrong? His voice broke. I'd never forgive myself. Thomas, listen to me. I'm doing this because I love you, but I'm also doing this because I want to. For 17 years since your father died, I felt like I was just existing, working, coming home, sleeping, repeat. This, as crazy as it sounds, this makes me feel alive again. Your father would have understood. A long silence. Then, Dad would have gone in my place too, wouldn't he? In a heartbeat. That's what parents do. We step into the fire for our children, even when they're grown. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. But I didn't sleep. Instead, I stayed up all night, playing hand after hand, remembering everything Robert taught me. Around 3 a.m., I made myself tea and sat down with my laptop. If I was going to do this, I needed to understand who I was dealing with. Viktor Kozlov. It took some digging through various news articles and forum posts, but I finally found information about him. He ran an underground gambling operation that moved locations frequently to avoid police attention. He'd been arrested twice, but never convicted. Witnesses had a habit of changing their testimony. The articles described him as ruthless but pragmatic. He preferred making money to making bodies, but he wasn't afraid of violence when necessary. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, I felt a strange calmness settle over my shoulders. I'd spent 32 years in nursing, watching people die, holding their hands, making impossible decisions about life and death. I'd faced down aggressive patients high on drugs, talked down potential suicides, worked through emergencies that would have paralyzed most people. Fear was familiar. I knew how to function through it. At 7 a.m., Thomas arrived with Ashley, who thought we were having breakfast together to discuss birthday party details. She was beautiful, with long blonde hair and bright blue eyes, completely unaware that her world was teetering on the edge of collapse. "Margaret!" She hugged me warmly. "Thomas told me you wanted to finalize the menu for Saturday. I'm so excited. 32 is going to be his best year yet. I can feel it." I glanced at Thomas, saw the guilt and pain in his eyes, and forced my brightest smile. "Absolutely, dear. I just want everything to be perfect for my boy." We spent 2 hours discussing food, decorations, and guest lists. Ashley chattered happily about her work at the dental office, about the new house, about how they were starting to seriously think about trying for a baby. Each word was a knife in my heart, knowing what Thomas had risked, what he stood to lose. After Ashley left to run errands, Thomas and I sat in heavy silence. "She's so happy," he whispered. "She has no idea how close we are to losing everything." "Then we make sure we don't lose," I said firmly. "Tonight, you're going to dig up that money and bring me $20,000. I'm going to that game, and I'm going to win back what you won, pay off these people, and end this nightmare." "Mom." "No more arguments, Thomas. This is happening. Now, I need you to tell me everything you know about this game, about Viktor, about the other players, every detail, no matter how small." For the next 3 hours, Thomas briefed me like a general preparing for battle. The game was held in the basement of an abandoned warehouse in the warehouse district, accessed through a back entrance guarded by 2 large men. There were usually 6 to 8 players, all men, mostly in their 40s and 50s. Viktor ran the game but also played. The minimum buy-in was $20,000, the maximum unlimited. The games ran until someone called it, or until everyone but one player was tapped out. "They play Texas Hold'em mostly," Thomas explained, "but Viktor likes to mix it up with Omaha sometimes, 7-card stud. You need to be ready for anything." "I will be." "And Mom, these aren't friendly games. People get aggressive. They'll try to intimidate you, throw you off your game. They're not going to go easy on you because you're a woman or because you're older." "Good," I said. "Let them underestimate me. That's an advantage." Thomas looked at me with something like awe. "When did you become such a badass?" I laughed, a real laugh for the first time in days. "Sweetheart, I've always been a badass. You just never needed to see that side of me before." I squeezed his hand. "Your father and I, we had a whole life before you were born. Adventures, risks, moments of wildness. After he died, I buried that part of myself because I needed to be responsible, stable, safe, for you. But she's still in here." I tapped my chest. "And tonight, she's coming out to play." At 8:30 p.m., Thomas drove me to the warehouse district. The $20,000, still smelling faintly of earth from its burial, sat in a leather bag on my lap. I'd dressed carefully, comfortable black slacks, a simple blue sweater, minimal jewelry. I wanted to look like what I was, a grandmother, harmless and unassuming. "Last chance to back out," Thomas said as we pulled up 2 blocks from the warehouse. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. "Not a chance. Now you're going to drop me off and go straight home to Ashley. Act normal. Watch a movie, have dinner, pretend everything is fine. Can you do that?" "I don't know if I can pretend." "You have to. For her. Whatever happens tonight, she can't know anything is wrong. Promise me." "I promise." He turned to me, tears in his eyes. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for all of this, for putting you in danger, for being such a failure." I grabbed his face with both hands, forcing him to look at me. "You are not a failure, Thomas Hill. You're human. You made mistakes, but you're also brave enough to ask for help, and that takes more courage than most people have. Now I love you, and I'll see you when this is over. I got out of the car before I could lose my nerve. The October night was cold, my breath visible in the air. I walked the 2 blocks to the warehouse, the leather bag heavy in my hands, and approached the back entrance. 2 men stood by the door, exactly as Thomas had described. Both were easily 6 feet tall, built like brick walls, with the kind of casual menace that comes from years of controlled violence. "I'm here for the game," I said, my voice steady. They looked at each other, then at me. One of them, bald with a scar running through his left eyebrow, spoke. "Lady, I think you got the wrong address. There's a bingo game at the senior center on—" "I'm here for Victor's game. I'm Thomas Hill's mother, and I'm playing in his place tonight." The second guard, dark-haired with cold gray eyes, pulled out his phone and made a call. After a brief, murmured conversation, he nodded. "Victor says to send her down." They opened the door, revealing a dimly lit staircase descending into darkness. The bald one gestured for my bag, and I handed it over for inspection. He unzipped it, saw the stacks of cash, and whistled low. 20,000, just like Victor requested, I said. "Now, may I go in?" He handed the bag back and stepped aside. "Good luck, Grandma. You're gonna need it." I descended the stairs, each step taking me deeper into what might be the biggest mistake of my life, or my finest hour. At the bottom was another door, and beyond it, I could hear male voices, laughter, the shuffle of cards. I pushed open the door. The basement was larger than I expected, surprisingly well lit and furnished. A round table dominated the center of the room, surrounded by 6 leather chairs. 5 men sat around it, cards in hands, chips stacked in front of them. They all looked up as I entered, conversation dying instantly. "Gentlemen," said a man at the head of the table, late 40s, handsome in a dangerous way, with ice blue eyes and perfectly styled dark hair. "Victor Kozlov. We have a surprise player tonight. Margaret Hill, Thomas's mother, has come to play in her son's place. How unexpected." The other players stared at me with expressions ranging from amusement to disbelief. One of them, a heavy-set man with a thick beard, laughed outright. "You brought your mommy to play poker, Tommy? That's a new low." "Thomas isn't here," I said calmly, walking to the empty chair across from Victor. "I am. I have 20,000 as a buy-in, and I understand the terms. I play for the 63,000 my son won. Double or nothing. If I win, we're done. If I lose, you get your money back, plus the buy-in, and my son owes you nothing. Is that correct?" Victor studied me with those unsettling blue eyes, a slight smile playing at his lips. "That's correct. But Mrs. Hill, I have to ask, do you even know how to play poker?" "My late husband taught me," I replied, sitting down and placing my bag on the table. "And he was very good." "Well then," Victor's smile widened. "This might actually be entertaining. Gentlemen, deal Mrs. Hill in." Chapter 6. Reading the Table. The first hour was brutal. These men played with an aggression and ruthlessness I hadn't encountered in my Friday night games with Robert. They raised big, bluffed often, and played mind games that would have rattled anyone unfamiliar with the territory. But I hadn't spent 32 years in nursing for nothing. I'd learned to read people in their most vulnerable moments, to see past what they said to what they meant, to notice the small tells that revealed truth. And these men, for all their bravado, were readable. The heavy-set man with the beard, they called him Jake, had a tell as obvious as a billboard. Whenever he had a strong hand, he'd tap his fingers twice on the table before betting. When he was bluffing, he'd lean back and laugh. I folded whenever he tapped, called whenever he laughed. Within an hour, I'd won 3 hands off him, totaling $12,000. The Asian man to my right, Daniel, played conservatively, betting small and folding early unless he had the nuts. He wasn't a threat, just trying to stay in the game. The thin, nervous man across from me, Rick, was obviously in over his head, sweating through his shirt and making increasingly desperate bets. He'd be out soon. But Victor was the real challenge. He played with a cool calculation that revealed nothing. His bets were measured, his expressions neutral, his body language controlled. He won most of the hands he played and lost only small pots when he folded. By midnight, Rick had tapped out, leaving 4 of us. My stack had grown to $35,000. Not bad, but still short of my goal. Victor had nearly $80,000 in front of him. Jake had about $45,000, and Daniel was holding on with $25,000. "Not bad for a grandma," Jake said, his tone condescending as he dealt the next hand. "Tommy teach you that, or did you learn from bingo?" I smiled sweetly. "My husband. Robert was a wonderful teacher. He always said poker was about reading people, not cards. For instance, Jake, you tap your fingers when you're confident. 2 taps, always. And you lean back when you're bluffing. You've been doing it all night." Jake's face went red. "That's is it?" I laid down my cards. A full house, queens over tens. "Because I've been using it to beat you all evening." Victor laughed, a genuine sound of delight. "Oh, I like her. Mrs. Hill, you're full of surprises." "I'm full of determination, Mr. Kozlov. There's a difference." The game continued. I won another big hand off Daniel, pushing my stack to $48,000. But then Victor made his move. It was a simple hand. I had pocket kings, and the flop came King 7-2 rainbow. 3-of-a-kind kings. Strong hand. I bet $5,000, and everyone folded except Victor. "Raise," he said smoothly. 10,000. I studied him carefully. Nothing in his expression, nothing in his posture, but there was something in his eyes. A glint of, was it confidence, or was it a challenge? "Call," I said. The turn card was a 4. I checked, and Victor bet another $10,000. My instinct screamed caution, but I couldn't see what he had that could beat my 3 kings. "Call." The river was a 7. 2 sevens on the board, 3 kings in my hand. If he had the case 7 or pocket 7s for 4-of-a-kind, I was dead. But that was unlikely. More likely he had aces or was trying to buy the pot. "Check," I said. Victor pushed a massive pile of chips forward. $30,000. The room went silent. Jake whistled low. Daniel leaned forward, fascinated. This was it, the moment Robert always talked about. The moment where poker stopped being about cards and became purely about people, about courage, about trust in your read. I looked at Victor, really looked at him. And there, just for a second, I saw it. His jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. A tell, a tiny crack in his armor. He was bluffing. "I call your $30,000, I said, "and I raise you all in, another $8,000. Victor's eyes widened slightly. The first genuine surprise I'd seen from him all night. Then he smiled. "You've got guts, Mrs. Hill. I respect that." He looked at his cards one more time, then folded. "The pot is yours." I pulled in the massive pile of chips, my heart pounding. I'd done it. I was sitting on over $80,000 now, more than enough to cover Thomas's debt with money to spare. But Victor leaned back in his chair, studying me with new interest. "One more hand, Mrs. Hill. Just you and me. All of it. Winner takes everything." The room held its breath. "That wasn't the deal," I said carefully, stacking my chips with hands that trembled slightly despite my best efforts. "I came here to win back the $63,000 my son won. I've done that. We're square." Victor lit a cigar, taking his time, letting the smoke curl around his face. "Mrs. Hill, technically you're right. The debt is paid. Thomas is free to go. But where's the fun in that? Where's the glory in saying you played poker with Victor Kozlov and walked away when things got interesting? I'm 64 years old, Mr. Kozlov. I left glory behind decades ago. I came here for my son, and now I'm leaving with what I came for. Double or nothing," Victor continued as if I hadn't spoken. "You win, you walk out of here with over $160,000. Enough to pay off Thomas's mortgage, set him up properly, maybe even help with that grandchild I hear his wife wants to have. You lose everything, including what Thomas originally won. 1 hand, 5 cards. Straight poker, none of this hold'em nonsense, pure, simple, honest." Jake leaned forward, grinning. "Come on, Grandma, you've been schooling us all night. Don't go soft now." I knew what Victor was doing. He'd lost face tonight, lost control of his table to a 64-year-old woman. He needed to win it back, to reassert dominance, and he was using my love for Thomas, my desire to help him, as bait. It was smart, it was manipulative, it was dangerous. It was also working. I thought about Thomas and Ashley, about the $340,000 mortgage crushing them, about the lies and the fear and the desperation. I thought about the grandchildren I wanted to meet someday, about the future they deserved. And I thought about Robert, about what he would do in this moment. He'd play, not because he was reckless, but because sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one at all. One hand, I said. Winner takes all. But I have conditions. Victor raised an eyebrow. You're in no position to negotiate. Actually, I am. You need this, Mr. Kozlov. You need to beat me to save face in front of your players, to prove that tonight was a fluke. So yes, I have conditions. 1. If I win, not only does Thomas's debt disappear, but you leave him alone permanently. No more calls, no more threats, no more contact. 2. You never, ever approach or threaten Ashley. She remains completely unaware this ever happened. And 3. I looked him dead in the eye. When I win, you shake my hand and admit that I'm the better player tonight. The room was so silent you could hear the smoke from Victor's cigar rising toward the ceiling. Then Victor laughed, a real, genuine laugh that seemed to surprise even him. Mrs. Hill, you've got more balls than most of the men I deal with. Fine. Your conditions are accepted. But understand this, I'm not going to go easy on you because you're a woman or a mother or because I like you. I'm going to play to win, and I'm very good at winning. I wouldn't have it any other way. Victor nodded to Jake, who had been dealing all night. New deck. I want this clean. Jake produced a fresh deck of cards, still wrapped in plastic. He opened it, shuffled thoroughly, and placed it in the center of the table. 5-card draw, 1 round of betting. Mrs. Hill, you have $86,000 in chips. Victor, you have $92,000. All of it goes in before the deal. Winner takes everything. I pushed my chips forward. $86,000. More money than I'd made in some years as a nurse. More money than Thomas's entire college tuition. Everything. Victor matched it, adding his own stack. The pile in the center of the table was obscene, frightening, magnificent. Jake dealt. 5 cards to me, 5 to Victor. I picked up my cards slowly, feeling the weight of this moment. Robert's voice in my head. Cards are just information, Maggie. They tell you possibilities. People tell you probabilities. I looked at my hand. Jack of hearts, Jack of clubs, 7 of diamonds, 5 of spades, 2 of hearts, a pair of jacks. Not great, not terrible. Decent. Victor looked at his cards without expression. I'll stand pat, stand pat. No draw. That meant he either had a made hand, a straight, flush, full house or better, or he was bluffing and didn't want to reveal weakness by drawing cards. I'll take 3 cards, I said, discarding the 7, 5, and 2. Jake dealt me 3 new cards. I picked them up. Jack of spades, 6 of diamonds, Queen of hearts, 3 of a kind, 3 jacks, a good hand, but not great. If Victor had a straight or better, I was finished. Your bet, Mrs. Hill, Jake said. But it's all in, so there's nothing more to bet. Then we show, I said. Victor looked at me across the table. For the first time all night, I saw something like respect in his eyes. Mrs. Hill, before we show, I want you to know something. Your son is a fool, but he's a lucky fool. Having a mother like you, that's worth more than all the money in the world. Thank you, Mr. Kozlov. Now show me your cards. Victor smiled and flipped over his hand. Ace of spades, ace of hearts, king of diamonds, king of clubs, 9 of hearts, 2 pair, aces and kings. For 1 heartbeat, the world stopped. 2 pair beat my 3 jacks. Wait, no. 3 of a kind beats 2 pair. Always, every time. I'd won. 3 jacks, I said, laying down my cards with hands that only shook a little. I believe that beats 2 pair, Mr. Kozlov. The room exploded. Jake jumped up, shouting. Daniel stared in disbelief. And Victor sat back in his chair and laughed, a sound of pure, genuine amusement. Well, I'll be damned, he said. Margaret Hill, you just beat me at my own game, in my own house, with my own players watching. That's actually impressive. Our deal, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Thomas is free. You leave him and Ashley alone. Forever. Victor stood up and extended his hand across the table. A deal is a deal, Mrs. Hill. Thomas is free. And you, he shook his head, still smiling. You are officially the most dangerous grandmother I've ever met. You're a better player than me tonight. There, I said it, witnessed by everyone here. I shook his hand, feeling the strength in his grip, seeing genuine respect in his eyes. Thank you, Mr. Kozlov. Victor, please. After tonight, we're on a first-name basis. He gestured to the massive pile of chips. Jake will convert that to cash for you. I assume you want to leave before we change our minds? That would be wise, I said. 20 minutes later, I walked out of that basement with $172,000 in cash divided between 2 duffel bags. The same 2 guards who'd let me in stood at the door, but now they looked at me differently, with wariness, maybe even a little fear. "Ma'am," the bald one said, opening the door for me. That was something else. "Thank you," I said graciously. "Have a good night, gentlemen." I walked the 2 blocks to where Thomas was waiting in his car, parked exactly where I told him to. He jumped out when he saw me, his face pale and anxious. "Mom! Oh God, Mom, are you okay? What happened? I've been going crazy." I handed him the 2 duffel bags. "Put these in the trunk." "What?" He unzipped one, saw the cash, and nearly dropped it. "Mom, is this... how much?" $172,000, I said calmly. "Minus the original $20,000 I took in, that's $152,000 in profit. Enough to pay off your credit cards, cover 6 months of mortgage, and still have a substantial cushion. Victor has agreed that your debt is paid and that you'll never hear from him again." Thomas stared at me like I'd sprouted wings. "You won? You won all of this?" "I won all of this. Now let's go home. I'm exhausted, and we have a birthday party to plan." The drive back to my house was surreal. Thomas kept looking at me, then at the road, then at me again, like he couldn't quite process what had happened. "Mom, I don't even know what to say. You went into a criminal poker game and beat a professional gangster at his own table. That's insane. That's the most badass thing I've ever heard." "Language," I said automatically, then smiled. "But thank you, sweetheart. It felt good. Scary as hell, but good. Dad would have been so proud of you." Tears pricked at my eyes. "I know. I felt him with me tonight, Thomas. Every hand, every decision. He was there." We pulled into my driveway at almost 2 a.m. Thomas helped me carry the duffel bags inside, and we sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd practiced all night, where Robert and I had played so many games. "So what now?" Thomas asked. "What do we do with all this money?" "First thing tomorrow, you open a new bank account at a different bank than your primary one. We'll deposit it slowly, over months, in amounts small enough not to trigger IRS reporting. You'll call it consulting income, pay taxes on it, make it legitimate. With that money, you pay off your credit cards immediately, then start catching up on your mortgage, and you find a new job, Thomas, a real one. No more pretending, no more lies. And Ashley?" I reached across the table and took his hand. "You tell her the truth, not about the gambling or the danger. That would only hurt her. But about losing your job, about being scared to disappoint her. She loves you, Thomas. She'll understand. And now you can tell her from a position of hope, not desperation, because you have the cushion to get back on your feet." Thomas's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve you, Mom. I really don't." "Probably not," I said with a smile. "But you're stuck with me anyway. That's what family means." 3 days later, on the night before his birthday party, Thomas sat Ashley down and told her about losing his job. I wasn't there. He needed to do this alone, but he called me afterward, and I could hear the relief in his voice. "She cried," he said, "but not because she was angry. She cried because I'd been carrying this alone for 6 months, lying to her every day. She said she felt like she failed as a wife, that I couldn't trust her with the truth." "And what did you say?" "I told her the truth, that I was ashamed, that I felt like less of a man, that I was terrified of losing her respect. And you know what she said?" His voice broke. "She said she didn't marry me for my job or my money. She married me because she loves me and that we're a team, and teams work through problems together. That's a good woman you've got there, Thomas." "I know. I don't deserve her either." "Stop saying that. You made mistakes, but you're fixing them. That's what matters." The birthday party the next day was beautiful. Ashley had invited about 30 people, friends, co-workers, neighbors. The house was filled with laughter and music and the smell of my chocolate cake. Thomas looked genuinely happy for the first time in months, unburdened by secrets and lies. I watched him with Ashley, saw how they touched each other with easy affection, how they laughed at inside jokes, how they looked at each other like they were the only 2 people in the room. That's what I'd been fighting for that night in Victor's basement. Not just money, not just freedom from debt, but this, the possibility of happiness, of normal life, of a future. "Margaret," Ashley approached me in the kitchen where I was refilling the punch bowl. "I want to thank you." "For what, dear?" Thomas told me that you've been helping us with money, that you gave him a loan to help cover expenses while he looks for work. I know that can't have been easy for you on your pension. It means the world to us." So that's what he'd told her. A loan from me. Smart. It explained the sudden financial relief without revealing the truth. "Family helps family," I said simply. "That's what we do." Ashley hugged me, and I felt how thin she was, how much worry she'd been carrying without knowing the full story. "I promise we'll pay you back, every penny. There's no rush, sweetheart. Just focus on being happy together." That night, after everyone left and I was alone in my house, I stood in my backyard where Thomas had been digging just days ago. The hole was filled in now, the grass patted back down. By spring, you'd never know it had been there. I thought about the woman I'd been a week ago, lonely, purposeless, just existing through each day. And I thought about the woman I was now, someone who'd faced danger and won, who'd discovered that the fire inside her hadn't died, just banked low, waiting for the right moment to flame up again. My phone rang. Unknown number. My heart stuttered for a moment until I answered and heard Victor's voice. "Mrs. Hill, I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Mr. Kozlov, I thought our business was concluded." "Victor, please." "And it is. I'm calling for a different reason. I wanted to ask if you'd be interested in playing again sometime. Not here, not in some basement with criminals, but maybe a legitimate poker tournament. There's a seniors tournament in Atlantic City next month. Good players, substantial prizes, completely legal." I smiled. "Are you trying to win your money back, Victor?" "I'm trying to play against someone who challenged me, someone who made me work for it. Those are rare, Mrs. Hill. In my line of work, most people are afraid of me. You weren't. That's refreshing." I thought about it, about Atlantic City, about playing poker again, about having something to look forward to that was mine. Not just being Thomas's mother or Robert's widow, but being Margaret. "I'll think about it," I said. "But Victor, if I do play, I'm going to beat you again." His laugh was warm. "I'm counting on you trying. Good night, Mrs. Hill." "Good night, Victor." 6 weeks later, I stood in a hotel room in Atlantic City, looking at myself in the mirror. I'd bought a new outfit for the tournament. Not fancy, just nice slacks and a comfortable blouse, but it made me feel put together, capable, alive. The seniors tournament had a $5,000 buy-in, and the prize pool was $200,000. Thomas had tried to give me the money, part of his repayment for my loan, but I'd refused. This was my adventure, my money, my risk. I'd saved it from my pension, planned for it, looked forward to it for weeks. The text from Thomas came through. "Good luck, Mom. Dad would be proud. Hell, I'm proud. Win or lose, you're already a champion to us. Love you." I smiled and texted back, "Love you too, sweetheart. Tell Ashley I'll be home Sunday." The tournament was everything I'd hoped for, and more. Players from across the country, all over 55, all with their own stories and strategies. I won some hands, lost others, slowly climbing the rankings. Victor was there too, at a different table, but I'd catch his eye occasionally across the room, and he'd nod with respect. I didn't win the tournament, came in 7th place actually, which earned me $15,000. But that wasn't the point. The point was that I'd played, that I'd tested myself, that I'd discovered a part of me I thought was buried with Robert. On the drive home, I called Thomas. "How's married life treating you?" "Actually, Mom, speaking of married life, Ashley and I have some news." He paused, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "You're going to be a grandmother. We found out this morning. She's 6 weeks along." I had to pull over to the side of the road because tears were blurring my vision. "Thomas, oh my God, that's wonderful. That's the best news I've heard in years. We wanted you to be the first to know. After everything you've done for us, after saving us when I was too stupid to save myself. Mom, this baby is going to know exactly how amazing their grandmother is." That night, back in my own house, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea and Robert's photograph. "We're going to be grandparents," I told him, touching the glass over his smiling face. "Can you believe it? After everything, after all the pain and the fear and the craziness, something beautiful is coming." I thought about the path that had led me here, from that terrible moment of seeing Thomas digging in the backyard, to discovering his secrets, to walking into Victor's basement, to beating him at his own game. I thought about the woman I'd been and the woman I'd become. Life is strange. Sometimes our lowest moments become the foundation for our highest triumphs. Sometimes we discover strength we didn't know we had. Sometimes we save our children, and in doing so, we save ourselves. I'm Margaret Hill. I'm 64 years old. I'm a retired nurse, a widow, a mother, and soon to be a grandmother. I'm also, apparently, a pretty damn good poker player. But most importantly, I'm a woman who learned that it's never too late to surprise yourself, never too late to step up when your family needs you, and never too late to discover that the fire inside you still burns bright. Thomas has a good job now, got hired 2 weeks after the party at a tech startup, making more than he did before. He and Ashley are shopping for a crib, painting the nursery, planning for their future. The credit cards are paid off, the mortgage is manageable, and the fear that haunted my son for 6 months is finally gone. And me? I've got plans too. There's another tournament next month in Las Vegas. Victor's going, and he's already trash-talking me via text message, challenging me to a rematch. I think I might take him up on it, because I learned something important in that basement 6 weeks ago. I'm not done living yet, not by a long shot. Robert used to say that life was like poker. You play the hand you're dealt as well as you can, you read the room, you take calculated risks, and you never ever fold when you've got a fighting chance. Well, I'm all in on this life, and I'm playing to win. Thank you for taking this journey with me, for listening to my story, for being here as I shared the scariest, proudest moment of my life. If my story moved you, if it inspired you, if it reminded you that it's never too late to surprise yourself, please subscribe to this channel. Hit that like button, and leave me a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love knowing that my story reaches people all over the world, connecting us all through our shared humanity, our struggles, our triumphs. Remember, we're never too old to be brave, never too broken to heal, never too lost to find our way home. And sometimes, just sometimes, the best chapters of our lives are still waiting to be written. God bless you all. Until next time.